Hello beautiful people, Miss Beeching here. In this video we're going to talk about describing events with formal terminology. So we're going to be using words like and, or, not, and more, but we're going to be doing it using formal mathematical symbols and formal mathematical words. So not many new ideas today, but a lot of new notation which can be hard to get used to, which is why it's a separate skill. And really importantly, in this skill, we're going to be using a lot of set notation, which you have noticed and seen before when we did sample spaces, but we're going to look at it a bit more formally today. So just to get the words out of the way, a set is just a formal name for a group of letters, numbers, or anything else. Usually it's numbers in maths. And each individual item in the set is called an element. So in the context of probability, a set is usually an event. It's a group of outcomes. And then each individual element is one of the outcomes. So rolling a 3 is an element in the set. The set is all the dice rolls that you could make. So let's have a look at what that actually looks like when we write it down. So here we've got an example of a set. Let's move it across. And again, just like when we did sample spaces, it has these curly brackets on each side. Okay. And this set is called A. We just gave it a letter. Doesn't really matter what letter, but we called it A. And so we said A equals this group of numbers. And so the curly brackets signify that it is a set, and the commas distinguish each individual element. So this whole thing is the set, and each number is an element. So not just the one I circled, but this is, whoa, a very chunky pen. This is an element, this is an element, this is an element, and this is an element. So this set has five elements. Okay, so we're going to use those words a fair bit when we talk about vocab. I'm going to bring up the big list. Now this list is printable. In the OneNote you can grab it and print it off. It's a bit overwhelming. Don't freak out. We're going to go through each of these one at a time. But these are all the different words and symbols we're going to talk about. Quite a lot of them. So first one's probably the most straightforward, and that's the symbol for probability. Okay, it's just a shortened version of probability. It's PR, and then the thing in the brackets is the thing that it's the probability of. So usually we'll put an event in there. Okay, and other way of describing it is probability of. Anything in the brackets is included in the probability. So if we look, if we look at this example here, or these examples, this one says probability of event A, and event A might be anything. Or we can sometimes write it out with full words. This isn't very common because it takes too long to write, but you can write it like this. You could write probability of 1 head and 1 tail. That might be for like 2 coin flips or something. And then this one is the probability of a 4. So it could be probability of rolling a 4. It could be the probability of a 4 in a different situation. Depends on the context. It's probably the most straightforward one. Next one along is union. Okay, and the symbol is a U. A really big U though. It's not like the letter U, it's a separate symbol. It's like a horseshoe. So union means the same thing as or. Okay, and we remember that or is just any 2 events, can be either event that happens or both of them. This is probably the definition that makes it a bit clearer in terms of probability. This is the more formal definition for set notation. So it's the set created when we combine the elements of 2 different sets. So if we've got the elements here from set A and we've got the elements here from set B, if we combine them, that's the union of the 2 sets. Kind of think of it like a marriage, I guess. So if we have some examples here, this says event A or event B, or you could say A union B. It's not very common for people to read it out loud as union. Usually you just say or, but it's still correct. Okay, here's another example. So if set A is the numbers 1, 2, and 3, and set B is the numbers 3, 4, and 5, then the union of A and B, or A or B, would be all of these ones from set A here, and all the ones set B combined. Union, they got together. Okay, last one. Probability of rolling, so probability of, that's this part, greater than 4 or more than a 4, or, this is that union, rolling an even number. There's a little bits in that. Okay, now the next symbol, as you might guess, would be for and it's exactly the same as union, but upside down. The easiest way to remember this, I like to think, is that and has like an N in it, and this kind of looks like an N. So I usually remember that this is a symbol for and because of that N. And it's like the most prominent sound in the word. And the technical word for and is intersection. And you can kind of think of that like if you drew it as a Venn diagram, it's like that intersection between the two circles. Again, we don't use this word very commonly when we describe things from it, but that is the technical term. So, easy definition. The outcomes that are in both events at once. So remember, and means only if it's both of them at the same time. And if we describe it more formally in terms of set notation, it's the set created by picking only the elements that are part of both sets. So if we have set A and we have set B, we're only going to combine the parts that are the same, the elements that are the same, none of the ones that aren't the same. Okay, so some examples. So this simply is read as A and B, event A and event B, or event A intersection B. Again, not a very common way of describing it, but it does happen. And if we've got a similar example to before, so if A is the numbers 1, 2, and 3, and B is the numbers 3, 4, and 5, then A intersection B, or A and B, would just be the one number that shows up in both sets, which is 3. And in the last example, similar to before, so we're saying the probability of the number being more than a 4 and an even number. So again, easiest way to remember the difference is and is like an N, and if you can remember that or is union, it looks like a U. Might take a little while for you to remember that. Okay, this one you might have heard a little bit in previous skills. So not. The fancy word for not is complement. This is used a little more often than intersection and union. And it's just a apostrophe written next to the event. Okay, so simple definition, outcomes that are not part of an event. That's what not means. Woo! In more technical wording, it's the elements that are not part of the set listed before the symbol. And that might make more sense in this example here. So the event listed before the symbol, or the set listed before the symbol, has a dash next to it, which means it's everything except for the ones written there. So this is not event A or complement A. Again, complement A sounds kind of weird, so we wouldn't usually say it like that. Next example. If A is even numbers and then B is B dash, sorry, that's another way to describe it. Sometimes we do call it B dash or not B. It's not even numbers. So it wouldn't just be fair to say odd numbers in this circumstance because the number 0 is not an even or odd number, I believe. And technically, if you really want to get fancy with it, every decimal number is not even or odd. So you'd have to get a bit pedantic with that one. Okay, last one. Probability of not getting read. So probability of read, and then the dash means not read. So if you see that dash, it just means not. Or complement. Okay, given. This is one we haven't really talked about much before yet. You will do a bit of probability with it though. So given or if mean the same thing, and this is the symbol for it. It's just a line that goes straight down the whole height of the page. It's longer than the letter I capitalized. So if you wrote like I dash L, that's how it would visually look different. It's quite a long line. Okay, so The event before the symbol has already happened. The event after the symbol is yet to happen. So this is to specify that something has already happened, and we usually want to know the probability of the other thing. So this one says probability of event A, and the one before the dash is always the one that I just realized that I need to switch these around. That's really depressing. These two should be switched. How fun. How fun. I'm not going to re-record this. I'm going to have to redo the skill page. That's great. Okay, so probability of A, so probability of the first thing, given that B has already happened. And this case might make it a bit more obvious. So this says probability of an even number given that, or if the number is smaller than 5. So if we already knew that the number was smaller than 5 and we wanted to know the chance of it being even now, obviously that could be really helpful in card games, then you would write that. Okay, subset. Last two. Whew, this is a long video. All right, subset. So this is a symbol for subset. There is a separate symbol like this without the line, which is called a proper subset, but we're not going to cover it in this video. It's already long enough. So subset means part of. And you might notice that the one below it also says part of. So we're going to do both of these at the same time. The other one is element, also means part of something. The hint is in the words. So subset is a set that is fully contained within another set. So every element in the set before the symbol is also an element of the set after the symbol. So if this is set A, set B might be here. And set B is a subset of A because it's fully inside. Every element or every outcome in set B is part of set A. So subset is to say one set is completely within the other set. Element is to describe separate elements. So you might say, here's set A and here's one outcome. Here's that one element that is part of set A. So it's a smaller scale version. So this one says A is a subset of B. Pretty straightforward. Here's an example that might help it make more sense. So if A is the numbers 2 and 3 and B is the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, A is a subset of B because everything inside A is also in B. The numbers 2, 3 are also in that set. So A is a subset of B, but B is not a subset of A because these two numbers here aren't part of set A. Okay, last one here. The event number rolled with a D4, so if we rolled a 4-sided dice, the outcomes of that experiment are a subset of rolling a 6-sided die because you got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and you've got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. And just to clarify again the difference, so element, 3 is an element of the set A, or 3 is an outcome of the event A. And to give a hard hands-on example, an ace of spades is an element of the sample space of a deck of cards. So if I pull a random card out of a deck, the ace of spades is one of them. It's an element of that set. And that's it. That's a very long video. Thank you for listening. And if you've got any questions, ask your teacher. Good luck.